Yeah, I had a great meeting with my team this morning. Chance to review last week. Lots of things went really well in the game last week. Our team prepared really hard, battled to the end, gave us a great chance to win the game, to kick a field goal with 2 seconds left. Same after the first overtime. Um, Defense played particularly well in limiting UNLV to the fewest points they've had all season. That's including 2 overtimes. Really gave our team a great glimpse of what really hard preparation can look like, and that it does travel and can travel. The focus will be on maybe from the outside of, yeah, you didn't win. There's one element of that game where we had been 10 for 10 in field goals that for whatever reason didn't show up on that day. Still love Tanner, and he's been really helpful to our team. But overall, the team played well. They were united. They battled really hard, and they're disappointed, as am I and the staff. That will take some time to get over. In the world of college athletics, you don't get much time. And so we're already on to the next opponent as coaches. The players will have a chance tonight to shift all their attention to Fresno, and that'll be both necessary and probably therapeutic for everyone. So look forward to questions if you have any.
Coach Mendenhall, Jason Turner from the Herald Journal. Saw a picture of Titan on Instagram outside the hospital. This is kind of a wordy question. Is he home? How's he doing? And how much were you kind of touched by the support that both teams showed toward him on Saturday?
He is home. He's doing well. I think that there's a great prognosis for him. I've never been part of anything as profound in terms of support of a team where our team joined in song to support. I think there's a cultural element in that song and the hymns. I think that there's also a team element, and I also think there's a faith element that came together in all that. I think UNLV certainly was touched as well. I think they handled that incident with class during the time also. And I think for those that haven't seen it, just to ponder and contemplate what that really looked like in the middle of a college football game reflects more than a game for sure.
I just quick follow up. Do you know what the hymn was? I don't know if I'll mention that if you know.
I do. And the it's a Tongan version of the song. The English translation is "Jesus is the Way." That was one of them. I think there were 3 different songs they were singing. Tavo, our offensive lineman, is kind of the leader of that, and he'd be able to give you more guidance. But it was just a really nice tribute and manifestation of, again, team spirit. I think cultural influence, but I also think an undercurrent of faith in maybe their own way of reaching out heavenward to help a teammate.
Thank you. A lot of ebbs and flows offensively against UNLV, but no turnovers against a team that's what they're known for, is forcing turnovers. And Fresno is another team that does that. So how much can you build on that heading into this next game, especially considering you did it on the road?
Yeah, I think it's great. But our team has held on to the ball under Coach McGivern's leadership really well all year. Bryson Barnes as well. He makes great decisions with the football. And so I think it's just become what we think we are. It's an identity without really much talk, energy, or extra attention going into it. It's just what's expected. And so I haven't heard our team coaches or staff even mention it about that game. Knowing that UNLV is strong in takeaways, we also just don't turn it over. And so it was just kind of a normal or status quo for us, even though the opponent was especially good at it.
So we talked a lot about road performance versus home performance, but in this one, it felt like the energy and execution was there, except for, I guess, I've seen a few places. How do you feel like this team responded to what had been some pretty serious road struggles all year?
I think they responded magnificently. It was an emphasis all week lots of energy, lots of time, lots of just messaging, and it felt like a home game. It felt like it in the locker room, felt like it on the sideline, felt like it from the minute we left. There were some routine changes that I chose to build in based on experience, and that was a quality team, and certainly the best we'd played. What I shared with my team, it was probably you can't say all three phases, but you could probably say 2 4/5 phases that we probably played well enough to win the game. There was just one phase that caught me off guard. I think everyone off guard, which had been a strength, that just didn't, for whatever reason on that day, we didn't execute well.
Kind of mentioned the special teams. You've had special teams issues in I think each of the last 3 weeks, each in a different area. You give up a punt return touchdown in New Mexico, kickoffs against Nevada, and then field goals. Like, is that something you can address, or is it like hard because it's like you're playing whack-a-mole with different issues that keep coming up that you weren't expecting?
Both. Yes, I can address it and have each time, and then it seems to go away. I wish I could see it in advance and address it beforehand, maybe at a different level. That is my job. And maybe going in reverse, not many kicks out of bounds the entire year, and then 4 or 5 in a game, 10 for 10 on field goals throughout the course of the year. And then that shows up, and hadn't given up a punt return all year, but we're also punting out of our end zone. So that one in particular, I felt like I didn't train our team. We didn't practice enough punting backed up, heels on the goal line. And I think that was an emphasis one for sure that manifests, unfortunately. As I look back at the training, the others, and hard to say we haven't emphasized it enough. It just sometimes performances just don't hold.
Coach Mark Greenwood with the Utah Statesman. I wanted to ask about third downs. Previously in the season, you really struggled on third down, but then against UNLV, who was the best third down team defensively in the conference, I think you were 50% or close to it. Just what did you see that changed on Saturday that you were efficient on third down?
Yeah, you've heard me say before, organizations are perfectly designed for the results they get. That means a focus on accountability. We targeted that on Monday, the same time a week ago, knowing that their offense was very explosive. We wanted our offense to score, but also we've been very dynamic, but in between the dynamic plays, maybe not of just controlling the game. And I think 9 of 15 is what we were on third down. And it was an emphasis in practice. It was an emphasis in the meetings, and you usually get what you emphasize. Not always, but you usually get what you emphasize. And that's what happened, and gave us a great chance to win the game. And it gave us a great chance to control the game, which I think it was complementary, where our offense was not only moving the ball and scoring, but our defense was making the stops when needed, either through punts, turnovers, fourth down stops. And so it didn't really feel like either side was rushed or the game got away from us, where before half at Vanderbilt, there was a sequence there where there's 3 and outs and a touchdown. It kind of got away pretty quickly. So we've had a few of those in this game. We managed that, and we played complementary football at a much higher level.
And then looking forward to Fresno State, you go from the best offensive team in UNLV to now Fresno, who's kind of middle of the pack offensively, but defensively one of the best in the conference. Just performance on Saturday, your defense obviously did really well. Offense played well. What can you carry over into Fresno to limit them offensively, but then counter their defense with good offense?
Yeah, really. So Fresno has again, the word I use is a complementary style. Their offensive scheme, and currently how they're doing it with the quarterback change that happened maybe 4 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. The style, especially they're playing offensively, complements their defensive style and vice versa. So you're playing an entire team and an entire strategy or strategic intent. And so that's working really well in terms of number of plays, possessions, time of possession. And there's a very specific style there. They're not concerned if they win 24-21 or 20-17 or 17-10. The game is being managed intentionally for that to happen. There could be big plays. That doesn't mean they don't want those from what I see on film, but there's a clear identity to the team that they've moved toward. that the offense and defense are complementary based on the styles they're playing.
And Coach Al Lewis filling in this week for radio for Utah State Network. You just talked about that. It was I think it's been the last 3 games they've kind of played this new way. As a coach, it sounds like they made a real big change at quarterback, because the guy was over 60% throwing the ball. He had 9 interceptions, but they just changed it. You guys look at film all year long, but obviously the last 3 games are what you really center in on.
That's a really good point. Yes, with an asterisk, yes. And is there any sign or influence that it could go back? And usually when you make that significant of a change, those are hard decisions as leaders, by the way. And I think the turnovers, certainly, again, I haven't listened or read or gone back. I haven't had enough time yet to see possibly what the explanation for the change was. My guess would be turnovers. And my guess would be just a style with the ball being thrown more that wasn't really matching maybe what they thought their best chance to win. And it was probably, just in looking at the film, was probably the Colorado State game that might have been the catalyst, where they were beat and the points didn't really match how this team has been playing prior to or after. And so as the leaders, and I compliment them for that, those are hard decisions, but it looks like a pretty significant change that they were willing to do that's yielded. And so most likely it's the last 3 games is the style we'll see. Maybe more than most likely, maybe probably. Probably just short of certainly, just short of that. But you have to acknowledge maybe the story of how it got there to see if there's any thought that it might be different.
Kind of talk about those last 3 games from on offense. They're also probably 3 of their worst yards per game on offense, but it's also the 3 best defenses they've played. So how do you try and analyze that change and how good they are after that?
They're tough, they're physical, the schemes are good, they block well, and they played those games as championship games. So there's as our intent was this last week, there's a lot at stake right now in the conference and down the stretch. And so teams are looking at how best to play collective football to give them the best chance. And the statistics really don't matter that much other than the points and the outcome. And so the games are being managed specifically to what gives your team the best chance and versus that opponent. And I shouldn't say lots. It's always brought up of where teams rank offensively or defensively. And man, as far as coaches, I'm not sure we really even look at that because of how the game is managed, what the matchups look like, and they're so different each week. So I just think they're a good team. They're gaining momentum. They have a good record, and they're really well coached in a very unique style.
What have you seen from your team's secondary? We talk about defensive improvements after the game, but from the secondary especially, where early in the season you gave up some pretty good performances to some pretty good quarterbacks, but against San Jose and UNLV, who both have pretty good quarterbacks, you limited them to lower completion percentages, lower impact. Even if they got some yards, it was kind of a lower impact. What have you seen from your defense as far as limiting some pretty good players where earlier you struggled against some of those same matchups?
Yeah, I think it's just taking time to season a group of players, putting them together to execute, to be more consistent. And then with changes that are happening to the roster within that and the different styles of play, some of the styles of play have been pretty distinct and different. And so I think we're just building through the processes of becoming not only a strong football team, but a strong defense. And it's just taken time. I wish I could have expedited that. I wish I could have rushed it. Wish I could have shortcutted it. It just wasn't the case. So our consistency, our execution, but I also think the second bye week as well, Coach Howell, the defensive staff, just like our offensive staff, lots of analysis of ourselves. Maybe not to the level of change that Fresno went through offensively, but certainly percentage-wise and some of the ideas and some of the calls that have been best and some that hadn't been, we're able to refocus on that. So I attribute some of it to that.
Coach Mendenhall, just wanted to ask you about their defense. 13 interceptions on the season, 2 pick sixes. Why have they been so effective in that category, and just how impressive has their defense been in general?
Yeah, I think their defense is strong. And again, they're, I think, a defensive-minded football team by, again, the style they're playing offensively. And I think they like those games that are physical, that are tough, that are relatively low scoring, that they have a chance just to grind the ball out, and but also just be physical and play the run well and tackle well. But they're Fresno's talented. They're really well coached, and they're playing to basically a kind of a number of plays and a rhythm and a cadence of the game that matches really well. So they're matching the style of collective football, and each side of the ball is then coaching to that pretty specifically. And then the talented players they have doing what they're supposed to do at a high level, I think, is what's what's yielding that.
Last one I had for you, Jason Walker talked about the secondary, the 8 passes broken up, and obviously the interception by Bronson. But how important was it for you guys to establish your pass rush in the second half? That kind of landed, and then also kind of limit. You were able to, for the most part, limit Kelly Andrea's scramble inability. And how important was that?
Huge focus. The quarterback is exceptional, and his ability to create and scramble, we thought, was the catalyst to their points, and especially their second half points, as he kind of would take more on himself to create. So schematically, there was lots of work with contained rushes and possible spies and different things in relation to pressure. But our secondary covered well, and they covered well with 4 players in the secondary that went out of the game. That's almost the entire secondary that had to be rotated through, and the next players just came in, and I'm not sure anyone even noticed, which is a compliment to their preparation.
I want to ask about a couple of players on Fresno's defense. They're both former Aggies, Jaden Pearson, Simeon Harris.
Got to give me numbers.
39 was Pearson. I forget which. I was looking up Harris. What number he was. Number 5. So number 39, number 5. I don't know how much overlap they had before they transferred away, but from Utah State, but from when you got here. But what have you seen from those guys on film?
So there was no overlap. I haven't met either of them. Lots of players enter the portal before a new coach even arrives, so I don't know either one personally, and really hadn't paid attention. So I look at numbers, and I don't really look at names. My focus to this point in the press conference has been on their offense. Usually after the press conference, I switch, and so I don't have enough. Other than seeing some crossover film where Fresno's defense was out there, but I haven't studied enough to really comment appropriately or accurately yet.
For them offensively, I mean, we kind of mentioned the passing game. They're very turnover prone. Have as many combined between the 2 quarterbacks, as many interceptions as touchdowns. So they're really built on their run. Have several good running backs that kind of share the load. Just how much of the focus is to get them into long passing downs and make them throw the ball?
It would be our preference. They run the ball really well, multiple backs, and their physical offensive line really well coached, block well their tight ends. So they're capable at throwing, but it usually is throw to complement the run, not the other way around. And so I think any team that has watched them play the last 3 weeks knows the primary focus is your run defense and making sure you're sound. And man, it will look that way for a long time throughout the game. And then it seems like the second half, there'll be 1 or 2 or 3 runs that spit out against really anyone they're playing. And then there's maybe a couple touchdowns, or the lead kind of lengthens as their defense holds some of the runs, and teams get worn down, and then broken tackles, and it's a larger game. That's kind of the rhythm and cadence as to what I've seen so far.
Hey, Coach, Patrick Mayhorn from the Ag Ship on Zoom. I wanted to ask about the end of the first half for the defense. The 2-minute defense has been something that you guys have been talking about and working on throughout the season. In that stretch, you get a 4th down stop. You hold them to, I think, a 59-yard field goal try that didn't go anywhere. What went into that sequence from the defense, and what did you see there?
Yeah, just a lot of focus. We've increased our emphasis from about week 4 or 5 in practice, making sure we have multiple repetitions every Wednesday in 2-minute situations. And we've just continued to get better and better and better. And again, it's what's happening to the team. It's also what's happening defensively. And again, no one wanted to expedite or rush that faster than I did. But I just think there's different points and different areas specifically, and just in certain situations, as you're talking about, that are just showing more consistently. And it was interesting because there wasn't any antics or drama or it's 2 minute. It just for the defensive staff and the defensive players, it was as if we're ready for this and just call what you want. We're going to be good. So the level of confidence because of the preparation is starting to match in different situations now.
Ryan Bronson, hey, Jason Turner from the Herald Journal. How much confidence can you build on that kind of defensive performance, both personally and collectively, against the most productive offense in the conference in UNLV?
I think it's huge being able to hold them, especially for being a really explosive offense, UNLV. But for me personally, I built the confidence. I struggled throughout the week with an injury, but being able to go into the game and just do the things that I need to do as a linebacker, communication, the execution, it was super huge. It gave me a boost of confidence, but at the same time, our defense, it's not just me. I think we put it together, especially as the game went on, especially in the second half towards halftime. We were able to really step up as a defense and just to hold our pillars in what we ride on as a defense. And I think it will give us the momentum going into this week against Fresno State.
Wanted to ask you about Jaden Pearson and Simeon Harris. You were around both those guys last year. Simeon for a couple of seasons. They're first and second on their team in tackles this year.
Yes, sir.
How much are you looking forward to interacting with them after the game, and how impressive has their production been so far this season?
I played with those two, both Sim and JP, great players, and I was able to play with them last year, develop a great relationship, especially with Jaden. We call him JP in the linebacker room. Both two really productive players, and I'm overall we love to compete. I'm excited to see them. I'm excited to compete against them and let them know after the game. So it'll be fun.
What's it been like for the defense these last few weeks where you had some struggles earlier in the season, particularly in the pass defense, but in the last 4 weeks or so, pass defense has been much improved, holding quarterbacks to pretty low completion percentages. Just what's that development been like for you guys, especially in this one where you held UNLV to their season low in points?
Yes, sir. I think it's just what we've emphasized in practice is as we go throughout the week is what do I need to do? What is my responsibility? And take it personal. Whether it's your safety, whether it's your corner, or whether we're a linebacker, is doing your 111, doing your job, but also it's not just knowing what to do, it's how we do it. And I think that's what we've really focused on is the intensity of our practices have been really high. The enthusiasm, the confidence going into each week has really helped us go into every game with the mindset of I'm not going to let them run the ball. I'm not going to let them catch the ball. And that's really, shown in the past couple of games like you've noticed. So.
What's it been like these last few days trying to make sure you maintain because you had really good energy going into the UNLV game and during that, obviously very disappointing. How do you try and kind of maintain that, recognize what you guys did well, overcome the disappointment, and how do you kind of maintain what you had going into the UNLV game, make sure you have that going into the Fresno game as well, even after that disappointment?
Yeah, nothing changes. I think our preparation throughout the week and the messaging with Coach Mendenhall, trying to align ourselves with what Coach Mendenhall expects of us. And of course, it starts with the leaders of our team. And I think they're doing a great job. We're doing a great job. But nothing in specific. I think, when it came down to the game, there's opportunities there that we left out, but it's how are we just gonna lay back? Are we just gonna be sad and pout with a devastating loss? We could have won that game, but now it's we have 2 games. Focus on ourselves. Focus on improving, and let's go get bowl eligible and let's finish the season right. We can get these 2 games and we can get the bowl game, and that'll be a successful season. So moving forward, it's keeping the team together, but also knowing what we've been able to accomplish, especially with this past game, giving us the confidence to finish out this season.
Bronson, Mark Green with the Utah Statesman. You guys have played a lot of high-powered offenses that really like to throw the ball, both the SEC teams, Hawaii, San Jose, obviously UNLV. Now you're playing a Fresno State team that's kind of the opposite. They really like to run the ball. How do you kind of shift that mindset defensively from limiting the pass game to now you got to limit the run game?
And now it shifts from, the back end. Of course, the back end's involved in the run, but now it's us in the box. The front 7 is us backers, and the D-line is honing in on our keys. They run the ball a lot, as I've just watched a little bit of film that I've been able to do today. They run the ball, I would say it's kind of, they love to run the ball. So I think with us, it's honing in our keys when it comes to zone, when it comes to pullers, when it comes to things like that, is seeing and reacting really fast and playing physical. Now the physical mindset has to come in when stopping the run. And if we can do that, a really good shot.
Then once they get into the pass game, they have as many interceptions as they do passing touchdowns. Just from a defensive standpoint, how much of the focus is to getting them into a passing down, and then once you do, really honing in on trying to turn them over?
I think that's where it starts. Is like you said, is if we can get them to pass the ball, and then we can win. And with first starts off with stopping the run, and if we establish that the front seven, then they're gonna have to go into something that they don't really enjoy doing, that they're not super confident in doing with their play calls. And I'm excited for us. It's a good challenge for us as linebackers and as D line to stop the run, and then I know our back end will be able to defend the passes, just like all the other teams have been able to do the past couple of weeks. But I'm confident in both our front seven, and in our back end. So.
Bronson Al Lewis, I'm doing the game on the radio this week for Scott, so help me a little. This team, as I've watched, you can just tell the team has developed so much more as the years gone on, despite the kind of ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
How, as athletes, has that been? Or you've been through other seasons and other teams. How has it been this year, and what's been building with this team now, up until now? And then you lose the chance, though, to be a conference champion or that. To still go on, and a major thing would be to play a bowl game then.
Yep. Like you said, I think the major thing with this team is the camaraderie, is the love that we have for each other. I think early on, like, when we talk about the transfer portal, when we talk about brand new teams, yeah, you look at Utah State, it's a brand new team this year. But the camaraderie we've built and the family we've built, the brotherhood. I mean, look at what happened when Tyne went down. Like, you don't see that a lot with other teams. Like, you don't see the whole entire sideline clear out to go support a brother in need. You don't see a team that goes out and pours their heart out. You see guys crying. You see everyone coming together. I mean, you heard the singing. you heard the singing, man. This team has developed a love for each other and a camaraderie unlike any other. And that's what we've seen as we've gone throughout the season. I mean, you could say that like towards the beginning of the season, but as we've gone throughout the season, as we've gone through those ups and downs, it's how close can we stick together? There's a lot of teams that will back down around this time of the season, that will kind of call us like, man, I think we're done. I think we just got to focus on next season. But no, the sky's the limit with this team, both offensively, defensively, even in special teams, just doing the things that we need to do to come together and stick through this season and to go out and win. I love this program. I love my brothers. I love Coach Mendenhall and his staff. And I think what we deserve and what we're going to do is we're going to go out and win these last two and be bowl eligible and win that one. That's my confidence in this team.
Mention how Fresno likes to run the ball. Nevada was kind of that same way where they prefer to, run, maybe set up the pass. Do you feel like there'll be similarities as far as like how you'll approach Nevada, or are there some nuances to how Fresno approaches running the ball that'll make this a wholly different matchup, even with that same trend?
We haven't really gotten much into the game plan, but as I think as we go throughout the week, it's the same, just the mindset and how we do things, knowing what to do, and our execution and our communication, and for us, just doing everything that we can to be successful when it comes to setting the front, when it comes to defending the pass, whatever it is, making sure that we hone in on our keys throughout the week, making sure that we can play fast and do everything that we can to prepare ourselves to be successful on Saturday and get the win. So.
Hey, Bryson, Jason Turner from the Herald Journal.
Hey.
I'll start off a little lighthearted. How's fatherhood treating you?
It's been great. Yeah, there's nothing like it. Just even after the game, obviously heartbreaking loss, but then, like, I see my wife and kid after the game, and like nothing else really mattered. So it's going great. I couldn't imagine anything better.
Some ebbs and some flows offensively against UNLV, but two things you did really well that UNLV takes a lot of pride in is third down conversions. You did well there, and they only gave up like 26% go head into the game, and then you didn't turn the ball over. So how much can you build on those two things, and how much of an emphasis were both of those things heading into the game?
Yeah, we know we've been struggling offensively on third down. That was no secret, and so that's obviously been a real big emphasis in the last 3 weeks. Is a lot of it comes down to what we're doing on first and second down, putting us in better third down positions. And we have been putting ourselves in more manageable third downs, which means we're being more efficient on first and second down. And so obviously, you have that type of emphasis going in to each and every week. And obviously it's been more for us recently. And so for it to kind of pay off the way it's been paying off, we're able to sustain drives. And obviously, we weren't able to put as many points up on the board, but you continue to have, I believe we were about 60% this last week on third down. Like, you're going to be scoring a lot of points staying on the field that long like that.
Bryson, Jason Mark with Cache Valley Daily. You mentioned those early downs, first and second. What do you feel like changed the most on those downs? Has there just been a different emphasis on those plays, or is it just greater execution from you guys?
Definitely the execution. I think the more we've obviously the more you play, the better you get, and we've also gone back to things that have things that we're really comfortable at doing and things that we really can execute instead of trying to get all schematic and special with certain play calls. We've just kind of gone back to the basics and the things that we're doing really well and the things that we're able to execute, and really kind of prioritizing those types of call on first and second down.
And sacks have been kind of an ongoing thing for most of the season. What have you seen from the offensive line, from the coaching staff, to try and limit those opportunities? There's been some mixed results the last few weeks, but what have you seen from this team to try and limit times that you're getting pressured when you're dropping back to pass?
Yeah, I think the stat of this last game was a little bit misleading. If I scramble outside the pocket and I think, like, if I don't even get past the line of scrimmage, it counts as a sack, I think that's kind of bogus. But so the sack number this week was definitely I feel like misleading. I feel like we've made tremendous strides over the last few weeks in our protection. It's just hats off to the guys up front. Like, they have taken it on their chest and they've just continued to go after it and grind. And a lot of the, like I've said before, like, there's so many different things that go into sacks on a quarterback, whether that be the quarterback's decision making and his thought process while he's back there, or receivers and their routes. Like, there's so many different moving parts that kind of work into sacks, but definitely the guys up front, they've kind of taken it as a chip on their shoulder and have just continued to show up and work each and every day. And I would just say, like, the energy that they've brought to practice the last 2 weeks has just been vastly different than the rest of the season.
Then Bryson Marcarino with Utah Statesman, kind of building off of that. Fresno State's one of the best defensive teams in the conference. Their defensive lineman Finn Claypool has 5.5 sacks on the year, and I think they have 18 or so on the season. Just kind of building off of that, what's the game plan or the mindset to stay out of that situation, whether that's, like you said, the decision making or the offensive line, and just kind of what goes into that this week?
I would say the last 2-3 weeks, because I want to say I can't remember did we come off a bye play in Nevada? That's right. So from the bye week, the week in Nevada, and then obviously last week against UNLV, we've obviously kind of tweaked some things offensively, and things have been looking a lot better. Like I said, the UNLV number was very misleading on the way I felt leaving the game, and so I don't feel like there's really much to change. I believe that Nevada, they had, I believe, like the 2 leading dudes with sacks in the Mountain West, and if we can hold those guys to 0, then I'm confident that we can hold Fresno State's guys to 0.
And then just from their defense as well, like I said, they're the best in the conference of limiting yards, limiting points. Obviously, you're coming off of a good offensive week the last couple weeks, actually. Just what can you carry over into this week, especially like you were talking about on third downs, to be efficient and still get points on the board against this defense?
Yeah, I just think it's, we've gotten to the point where we know what we do really well, and it's really just going to come down to how we execute. And you always kind of fall to the level of your preparation when it comes to the games, and when the pressure's on, that's kind of what you fall to, is the way you prepare. And I think now more than ever, I mean, you have a type of loss like we had, and you see the good things that we did in that game, and if anything, like, it's you turn the pressure up, you don't turn the pressure down. And so you turn that up, you continue to rely on your preparation and what kind of has led to our success offensively, and you lean on that and you continue to do that each and every week, and it's going to show up on Saturday.
Bryson, Al Lewis, I'm doing the radio this week for the Utah State Radio Network, and I just want to know, you can just tell you're a winner. You want to win games. Just explain how it felt after Saturday's game. I mean, when you still had a chance of conference championship maybe in your hand and things like that, and that goes away.
Yeah, I mean, it was heartbreaking. Like you said, there was a possibility that if we won out, that we could be playing in the Mountain West Championship. And I mean, that was the goal that I said January 1. Like, we got this staff, like, there was one goal in mind, and that was to go win the Mountain West Championship. And so for that to kind of, I mean, there's always a chance, but it's very, unlikely. And so kind of to go back to your point, the loss, I mean, it was unfortunate. When when you give so much and you're trying to give everything you have for it not to really turn out in your favor. But that's the game of football. And the best thing about football is you look around, nobody else cares, nobody feels sorry for you, and you got to put the backpack back on. You got to get back in the building, get back to work. Because Fresno State, they're going to have senior night this week. They're expecting to to beat our freaking trash this week, and we can't still be feeling sorry for ourselves because we lost a tight one the week before. Like, we got to move on. And that starts in about 3 hours with everybody coming in for meetings.
And then, yeah, to kind of go with what Mark was saying, it looks like the consistency the last two games offensively has maybe been the best of all year in two games back to back. Would you agree with that? It kind of looked like that.
I don't know if I could fully agree with that statement. I think offensively we have had ups and downs, and there has been struggles with consistency. I mean, I personally didn't feel like I was consistent enough last game. I feel like I've had more consistent games previously, but like there has been a different type of change, and there's like a vibe and like a mojo about the offense that has been different the last 2 weeks. So I would say it's more of like a mojo and a swagger thing with the offense, not necessarily completely on consistency.
There's been a narrative about this team's performance at home versus on the road, and I know technically it's still 5-0 and 0-5, but this last game felt a lot different as far as the energy that was brought. What do you feel like changed about this team as far as how close it came to that victory and reversing that?
Yeah, no, I got a cold chills thinking about that. No, I mean, it's been known, like, we've gone on the road, and I mean, granted, 3 of those away games, I mean, the travel to Hawaii, tough. Then you're going on the road to 2 SEC opponents who are top 15 in the country, tough. So there is a kind of a little bit of context there when it comes to those away games, but that has been a struggle, and like the energy has been focused on from the bye week Nevada into this week. And no, it was a completely different vibe from the team from Tuesday's practice all the way through to when we showed up there. And yeah, like, I just continue to get cold chills thinking about it. Like, the guys showed up, we understood what we needed to do, and we went out there and we just kind of fell a little short.